Hello, fairy finders and fairy seekers. Welcome to FaerieQuest and the Ask the Fairies, pick a card or pick a stone, past life adventures card readings. On the screen, you see 4 stones. Each one is different. They each have number 1, 2, 3, or 4 above them. Choose the stone that appeals to you and then use the timestamps below that are also numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4 to find out which past life reading is for you. Have fun. Hello, stone number 1. Labradorite is what we're looking at here, and it has the most amazing color reflection abilities. It reminds me of a peacock. So Labradorite is one of those stones that has a lot of value to the physical body. It aids in, for instance, eyes and brain, if there's any disorders there. It stimulates mental abilities, and probably the best use is for relieving anxiety and stress. It also regulates metabolism and balances hormones, treats colds, gouts, rheumatism, lowers the blood pressure, and aids in digestion. When it comes to chakras, the Labradorite is a great aid to the throat chakra. It's a transformation stone because of the changes in color that it creates. It kind of gives that image of transformation, things changing. So it allows our strength of will to be enhanced and our inner worth to be enhanced, which means we're much more comfortable being vocal, speaking our truth. So there may be a connection to this Labradorite for your past life recall here, but we will see where that goes. So we're going to shuffle the cards here. And of course, I've done a little bit of extra beforehand because these cards are a little larger and a little harder than a regular deck of cards to shuffle. So we will put them down and do the split. Okay, so let's see who you were in a past life. Put a few cards across first. Okay. Okay, so to get started here, what I'm seeing is that you were some kind of a religious figure. And as this religious figure, because of the times and perhaps the things that you believed, you felt like you had to kind of hide what you actually did believe in. So it may not have been a customary belief. You may not have just been about God and country, so to speak, okay? And you felt that it was important to do some of your own digging, some kind of research concerning what you believed. You know, is it or is it not, you know, in your head? Is it what you are actually feeling? Is that factual? Are your religious beliefs in this life something that is odd, something that should perhaps be hidden. So until you were able to research this, you kept these thoughts hidden. These thoughts were much different than other religious leaders or others in the order, so to speak. You know, you had your thoughts about war, and you had thoughts about, you know, the servitude of others to others, such as children working for kings and queens and pages and, you know, that kind of thing. You had your thoughts about the unseen world, the spirit world. You had your thoughts about whether or not men should have all the say. And you had your own thoughts about people's vices and what that did for them. It wasn't just cut and dry for you. You needed to do some exploring here to determine what that's all about. There were a lot of things going on in your mind at this time. And if we wonder what time this was, what time period this was taking place, it was a time when war was pretty prominent. And this would be war with other kings, other communities, not communities, but other kingdoms. And a time when magic was a part of things. So there would have been witches and druids and many different kinds of sects of people. So as a religious order priest, we have no idea what type of priest you were, but we do know that you had a bit more of an open mind, and that just really did not fit with the times. You were supposed to believe as one specific thing, but kingdoms were at war, and it may very well have been kingdoms at war because of magic. If you've ever seen the show Merlin, the king in that show did not want magic in his kingdom. Magic was against the law. That may have been this time period, or perhaps magic aided these kings as they did their battle. Now, in this life also, you faced some pretty heavy-duty struggles. And those had to do with, again, really struggling over the fact that you did not believe that children should be in servitude to anyone. Children should have been allowed to play. And this could have been something back in your own childhood, that perhaps you had a very heavy-duty childhood. And this particular area of thought really set you on fire. You absolutely mentally would just get so uptight about this subject. It was something that was probably better for you not to talk about. It was a huge passion for you, something that you felt was very important to fight against. However, again, because it was absolutely different to what everybody else was thinking, it could cause you some severe issues in your life. Oftentimes, you would take more of the form, rather than the religious order person, you would go off into nature to contemplate this fire, this passion, to try and get answers as to why. And you became more druid-like, more hermit-like, rather than more organized. You faced those challenges because that is who you really wanted to be, but this is who you had to be to survive in this time period. There was no going to a more druid type or nature type priest. during this time. Once you placed yourself in a certain place, that's apparently where you needed to remain. Because of your research, you had, which of course you did in secret, you had a connection to Spirit. And Spirit did warn you that those who were more shadow and could possibly be kind of double agents in this war, so to speak, they were keeping a good eye on you and had discovered what it was that you were doing. And since you were doing some of it in secret, and you were also possibly going from this order to the druid type, more nature based, and teaching there as well, they found out. And this was not something that the higher ups would wish the general public to know anything about. So they sent an assassin after you, and you were killed by that assassin. It doesn't really show how you were killed. However, in that day and age, it would probably have been by sword, would be my guess. So you may have been stabbed with a sword. So if you have any particular part of your body in this current life that oftentimes gives you like a stabbing pain that you cannot explain, and that the doctors have not been able to determine what it is, or you have a birthmark perhaps that kind of resembles the blade of a sword as it would go into the skin. If you have difficulty with, say, your voice, perhaps your throat was cut. Maybe you have difficulty with your voice. And again, if that were the case, then the Labradorite would be a very powerful stone for you in this life. And that may be why you were attracted to it. These are all possibilities of things that you could carry over from this particular past life. And another portion of it is you may have difficulties with any kind of spiritual belief, perhaps. You know, maybe believing in, let's say, God or source, you know, and trying to practice that belief in any kind of organized religion at all. You may find a more spiritual outlook easier, because that's actually where your heart did lay, and the belief system that you had back then. So that may come very easy, but you may have kind of a very stiff view or very unbelieving view of a more organized type of religion because of the life that you led here. And if you did not quite heal at the point of death, you may have carried that over into this life. This is a reading that can help you recognize where those feelings came from or those physical issues came from, and can help you heal those. Once you know that they are there and what may have caused them, you can begin that healing process. So in this life, it taught you that sometimes as a man, and in this case you were a man, it is sometimes necessary to stand alone with what you believe, and sometimes you find yourself, you know, looking through the window, looking at the gathering and the community of other people who are very much different in their beliefs than you are. You find yourself the one on the outside looking in. You may want to be or want to share be that all-important person to share everything that you have learned, everything that you know. But there is divine timing in everything. And in this particular life, that divine timing, it was not the time. So patience is a huge part of this learning for that lifetime. So what this life taught you and how it is affecting the life you are living now, you may very well be more spiritual. You may have embraced the, perhaps the Wiccan way or nature in general. You may be one to drink tea and not imbibe in anything stronger than tea. You may have or may go just the opposite of this structured way of life. That is not who you wish to be. You want to have the freedom to be able to express who you are, and you might even be considered quite different again, even in this current lifetime. That's who you were back then. It's just carrying over, and in your current lifetime, you may be seeing that as well. You are also one to really care for other people and to do your best to do the right thing by others. And we're not just talking girlfriend, boyfriend situation. We are talking everyone. You do the best that you can to care for all and to do the right thing by all, because your belief system tells you that that is the right way to go. You try very hard not to say harsh words, not to do anything that might upset other people. And you are still one to find the holes in what you hear, what you see, what others say. You find the holes, just like you did here as this priest. You are still the researcher. You still manage to break a hole through what is in your mind not considered truth. And oftentimes it is proven as an untruth or something that needs more exploration. You're still the researcher, so nothing much has changed there. That's still a part of who you are. But now you don't have to hide in this current life. You don't have to hide what once was, which is a relief. It is a relief, and it does allow you to care for others as you would like to, rather than to try to sneak food to a child that is in servitude and perhaps not being fed enough. This is huge for you. So your ability to be able to give to others is very, very important in this life, but you still manage to do your research. So that is what the cards are showing for the Labradorite past life people. We are going to pull one more card, just a small message from the fairies to add to the message given by this past life. So let's see what we get here. Keep in mind that this is a general read, and some of it may ring true, some of it may not. Go with what you're feeling. So we are going to split the deck here, and we have a very, very, very blended individual. Not sure if you can see. Here is the head, eyes, the body down to the feet. Very blended. This being's name is Fenyu, and the subject matter is the chameleon. The message is, all humans have the need to blend in, to be a part of the crowd. This seems to be the way dictated by society. The sign reads, become a chameleon, fit in, stay hidden. If you are true to your soul, you know that being a chameleon is not what your soul dictates. Though you are connected to all living creatures, you are unique. You must discover your individual gifts and talents and share them as your heart desires. It is okay to be gold when all others are silver. Allow yourself to shine. What a great message for this reading. And it is telling you that, this is the way things once were and often were, where people felt like, you had to fit in, you had to be a part of the crowd. Heaven forbid you were different. And Fenyu is telling you that being different is okay. It's all right to be gold when all others are silver. So that was a marvelous message from Fenyu. So I do hope you enjoyed this past life reading. And again, as always, anything that resonates, grab it. And if it doesn't, just let it go. So until next time, thank you for joining and take care. Hello, stone number 2, Amethyst people. Welcome to your past life reading. And first off, with Amethyst, Amethyst is a natural tranquilizer. In other words, it makes you chill out, relieving stress and strain, and if you're irritated, it soothes that. It balances mood swings, and it can ease rage, anger, fear, and any kind of anxiety. It's also said to alleviate sadness and grief, or at least help alleviate it to some degree, and it also dissolves negativity. So this stone is for the crown chakra. It kind of gives you, or helps to give you, a mental clarity so that you can focus on the bigger picture and healing any of the blockages from current life, past life, carryovers, that kind of thing that are holding you back from being actually truly happy, blissfully happy. This stone may have something to do with the past life you are about to experience. Keep in mind that this past life reading is a general reading. Some of it may ring true to you, and some of it may not. Take what you can and let go of the rest. But you'll know if this past life resonates with you. So let us get started. Alrighty. Okay, so it appears that in this past life, you were someone who lived alone. But I don't think you were always that way. I think at one point in time you had a family, wife and child, whom you cared about very, very much. And you were, I believe, quite privileged as well. And that's how you were in your younger years. Something happened to cause you to become this individual here, this almost hermit-like individual wandering the earth. And I think this may have something to do with something happening to your family. Now, in your travels, you are searching for your family, I believe, and you come across the traveling people. Some would call them gypsies. Some don't care for that term, so we'll just say traveling people. And Native Americans. You can see the Native American in this picture. The fairies themselves, the tree people, and those with money, pirates also. So you encountered many different people in your travels as you were looking for who may have taken your family. This took place during a time when there were many traveling people who came forth for entertainment into the villages and would sell their wares and promise eternal life or, sickness potions and things like that. There was also some black magic going on and also white magic going on. So just witches in general, as well as the traveling people, and also seers, those who could look to the future and gain answers. You were very attracted to all of these people because they were able to, or supposed to be able to, see into the future for you. That was very important because in your quest, your whole point was to find your family. Of course, you would have faced challenges on this quest. Those challenges would be coming up against, those who felt perhaps as though they were being accused of taking your family when that was not your intention. But you would come up against pretty much a brick wall, or unable to communicate even with those you needed to ask about your family. Had they seen your family? And spirit, you had the capability of communicating with them as well through the many different kinds of seers that you frequented. But some things in spirit, if it is not in your best good to know, they won't necessarily share. So every now and then you would come up against a brick wall there as well. So that would be a challenge. And then, of course, we have, again, the traveling people who may have felt very much like the Native American people, or in this case, they would be just people from many different countries, many walks of life, who preferred you go on your way because they did not want to be accused of having taken your family either. So you had help, you could go to these seers, but it was a lot harder to go to actual people and also even spirit. And you could also look at this card as the fairy realm, spirit and the fairy realm, who were not sharing anything because they did not want to be the ones to say, hey, yes, I took your family. It looks like you came upon what I would call Mother Nature, or Queen of the Fairies, or a very, very powerful magical being in your quest. And she saw your suffering. This is what she could see, you know, your sadness. And it was very important to you. You had been on this quest for a long, long time. And, you know, the sadness just never ended. It just engulfed you, as you can see from this being engulfed in the pine tree needles, wanting to just fade into this being and or become one with nature so that there was no more pain. So this magical being offered up that magic and allowed you to become something of nature, something in her realm, so that you could forget the pain and the sorrow of all that you had gone through. But you were fairly aged at this point. You had spent a long time looking, and so you were, you know, over 50 at least when you met with this very magical being who allowed you to become perhaps a tree. That might be, you know, who you became. I can't be sure about that, but since we are, you know, being depicted now from this to this, I'm thinking you were allowed to become a tree. Or at least spend a little time as a tree to try to start to heal and to not feel that pain like you had been all your life. Now that would basically be your death in this particular life. And so now in this life here, your current life, you may be very nervous around people with your own children. If you have children, you may be very nervous. You may have a carryover of this life of worrying that somebody might come along and decide to take your children. You might be very, very overprotective. You might be overprotective or very protective of a pet or a spouse even. All of this can go all hand in hand. If you did not heal in this lifetime, you may carry that over into this current life. You may feel an urge to wander, to travel, and feel as though something is missing, but not being able to actually put your finger on it, so to speak. And that would also be a carryover from this past life. You may also find yourself having a major affinity to or connection, feeling to the Fae realm, the fairy realm. And also, you know, perhaps needing to find those people who are able to prognosticate or tell the future or tell you how to go about things. When in fact, having chosen Amethyst, you have that ability within yourself to create that focus and heal whatever has been carried over from this past life. So the lessons that you learned from this past life is that love can be beautiful, but it can also be very sad and dark. Make your heart feel very sad and dark. But it is possible to soar again, I guess you could say, to be able to find joy in life again, to find joy in the travel, just to find joy in general, and to believe in things that you might not ordinarily have believed in. Transformation is key to finding that joy and to turning that heart green again. And I say green because the heart chakra is based on the color green. That's the healthy chakra color. So the transformation of that is the key to finding the joy and allowing yourself to transform in that way. So there was a lot to learn from that life, and I believe, becoming that tree allowed very much a lot of wisdom and perspective to allow that transformation. And this past life has affected your current life. They all do. There might not be carryovers always of the things that I mentioned previously. However, there are things in your personality that become, because of what you've been through, that become a part of your personality. So you may be one of those people who tends to try to appear much more confident than maybe that you feel. Though you should be very confident, you may not feel that way, but that is what you put across as a more confident kind of being. You also have a great deal of intuition and a great deal of love for all things of nature. And you really, really love different cultures as well. Whereas previously, you felt like you had to go to other people to find out the information, to have them see the future, or to have them try and find where your family was taken to, or who they were taken by, and to feel like you had to go to others to ask them, and had such a hard time being welcomed by these people. Well, you have come to love the diversity because you realize you don't need these people for anything specific. You don't need them to see the future for you. You don't need them for anything. So you have time to respect them for who they are, time to get to know them. And in this life, you are just as strong as you were as the tree when you returned to the tree. You are very strong and very wise, still having a part of that tree wisdom within you and that tree strength within you. That is what you've carried over into this life. So it's been a very valuable life, very good lessons given for this particular life. Very sad to some degree, but a great deal learned. And we're going to pull one more card from the fairies to see if there's a special extra message from this past life reading, and see what we have here. They often have something a little more to share, a little more info just to complete the past life. And let us split this. Okay, so we have, and this is a difficult one to see, okay, but we have a lady here. We can see her hand here and her face here, and she's wearing a hat with kind of a veil down over her body. Her name is Faerie, and she is the lady's maid. Her message is, there is a lady's maid within every woman and a butler within every man. This is the part of self that pampers us, keeps our confidences, and who would willingly wait on us hand and foot if we would allow it. When you feel the presence of this part of you, it is time to stop whatever you have immersed yourself in and allow some relaxation, some pampering of self before all of your strength is sapped. It is ill-advised to push the lady's maid or butler aside. And that is very apropos, I think, for the Amethyst, which is about clarity of mind. And you cannot have clarity of mind unless, let's say, you spend a century as a tree. In other words, giving yourself time to relax and clear the mind and allow Spirit to enter and aid your knowledge, aid your knowing, your intuition, to expand, to give you the larger picture. If there's something that you're working on, this is an amazing way to be. Or again, call on the trees. You were a tree. The trees will help. This is a big part of how this past life affected your current life. That's part of it. You may have an affinity to trees and, get very upset when trees are cut down, or there's many different things. And you can, consider what this past life reading is sharing and what the cards are sharing, and it's okay to read into them your own way as well. My reading of them is not the only way. So take care of yourself, pamper yourself a little bit. If you have questions, ask, and then allow yourself to just lay back and relax, clear your mind, and let the answers come. So that is it for your past life reading for this time around. And as always, take what you can from it and let the rest go. Until next time, take care. Hello, stone number 3, the Angel Aura Citrine choosers. And to get started, the Angel Aura Citrine stone can help you feel more stable, and it also provides a protective shield around your aura to allow you to have some inner peace, perhaps mental clarity, and it heightens your intellect, your wisdom, and just offers pure serenity for a while. It is also a really good stone for transferring energy. So if your energy is very, very strong and powerful, and you feel like you have a little to give to somebody who's down and out, this is a great transfer stone. It is also the stone for the solar plexus chakra, offering a lot of mental clarity, and it's also a stone of manifestation. So this could be prosperity. Now, prosperity doesn't always mean money. It can mean many other things other than just money. So it is a good stone for the solar plexus. So with that said, this stone may be attached or useful to your life at this time, depending on the past life that you are about to experience. So we will see how connected that will be. Why perhaps you were attracted to this particular stone. All right, so here we go. Okay. Okay, so it appears that you were kind of a sad man, or perhaps someone who always in their head, always thinking, puzzling things out all the time. And of course, in this puzzling, you found places to go that were very private and hid yourself away from others to really try and blend in so that you could do your thinking and not have anybody disturb you while you were thinking. You were also, because of this, very studious, always feeling as though you needed to teach others about all the things that were going on in your mind, feeling like you need to mentally enlighten because you're the professor, feeling as though you understand or understood much more than other people. Unfortunately, the way that it looks is that you discovered that you weren't really appreciated by all of those whom you tried to share your knowledge with. They all have lives of their own and things to do of their own, and really didn't give you a whole lot of time of day, even though you were able to share with a lot of people, and perhaps you put in a little niggle of information into their brains, for perhaps later use, but there's no way for you to know that. But they did not give you the respect as someone with valuable information as perhaps you felt you should have. Now, this was during a time when there were villages where men and women in wagons would come and sell their wares, like their sleeping potions and love potions and things like that, and where there was a lot of magic in the air and a lot of people who wanted to tell others' fortunes and not allow them to believe that they could do that on their own, and where taking what I guess could be called a walkabout or a religious journey or some kind of journey to be able to discover what you knew was not necessary to do, that it was all inside of you. This is what you wished to share, but everyone else thought it was outside of them, and that all these things had to be done to be able to reach a certain point of peace. So your challenges with this was facing the disdain of those people who just, you're wasting my time. I don't have time to listen to this. I have other places to go, better places to be, better people to be with. Even the poorer individuals, or back then they were termed peasants, even those people did not have the time to allow you to offer wisdom to improve their life, give them ideas. There was just no time for that. They had to make a living. They had to feed their children. That's all that they could focus on, and nothing else mattered to them at that point. And then, of course, you weren't going to change the minds of those who were in need of more physical activity, those who wanted to make a living from being outlaws or bandits or even knights, fighting wars for someone else, or gaining money or gaining a reputation doing things that weren't necessarily in their best interest. The peace could come from within, and it wasn't necessary to do all of what these people were considering, and there wasn't, a need to work as hard, because the saying is, work smarter, not harder. This is what you were trying to share. This is what they were not buying. It was much easier to go to the village square and buy the potion for sleeping better than it was to actually get more sleep or leave a few pieces of laundry go to get a little more sleep. Not all of the people who made their living in this way were good people. Some of them were very innocent looking and were quite deadly, actually. And this particular one was one of them. You came across one of the potion makers or someone like that, and you had already tried to steer others away from these people. This was their livelihood. This was not appreciated. And they created some kind of potion or some kind of way they took your life. The angels came, or the fairies, the angels, the fairies, someone came for you and you surrendered. You went to heaven. You went elsewhere because life was tough being who you were and not having any support, always being alone in your, how absolutely astonishingly wise you were, and frustrated that no one would pay any attention. So you finally surrendered. Now in this life, this current life that you are leading, because of all this that took place, any carryover that you have from this past life could be a major suspicion or need to be certain that those people who claim to be able to, create potions, or those who claim to be able to foresee the future or read cards, for instance, it is very important for you to determine whether those people are for real, to be sure that those people are truly believing in what they do and not just trying to fool the public, so to speak, as these people would have been doing, and as this one. It could also be a carryover of, again, you are extremely intelligent, but hiding that and trying to be less intelligent than you are so that you might fit in with others who are not as intelligent. Or, carryover more, you could be one to really, again, be pushing because you feel it is necessary for yourself to push. And so people are, again, pushing you away. There are many ways that a life like this can carry over into the one that you're leading now. And since this is a general read, you would have to be the one to say, oh yeah, that's what this is probably about for me. So the lessons that you learned from this life, once you passed away here, life is a struggle. A lot of weights can be placed on the shoulders if you are at all different in any way, shape, or form. You can cry tears, as we see with this little elf here and the fairy who is trying to hand him a handkerchief. There's always someone out there that can offer kindness, but if you don't accept that kindness and don't take the time to try and talk to anyone or share how you're feeling, truly how you're feeling, then those people have done their best for you, but you'll end up being alone. So life can be a lot of struggle, but if you let people in You don't have to be alone. You can have those people. So that was a hard lesson that you learned and understood at your passing, is that if you had just relaxed a little and let people in, let them share their knowledge, their wisdom, you might have known and learned even on your own. So even now in this current life, you may also really despise having people tell you how to do something because you feel as though you already know. But there is always something to learn from someone else. So this past life has affected your current life, perhaps making you feel as though you are kind of a person out of time. Here we see a girl that looks like a cowboy or a cowgirl with a cowboy hat, and she looks to be swinging from a trapeze. So almost as though she's many different personalities, needing to be many different personalities to fit in with the people that she has in her life right now. And feeling as though, a lot of life has been almost warlike. Like you have to fight for everything that you have because you're so different than everyone else. But you're discovering that you belong with people. You have, we'll say, a tribe of people that you fit into so beautifully, so very beautifully. And once you find them, if you haven't found them yet, they will understand you so well. And this current life, you've been affected by all of this. And you may be at this point of struggle and war. But you need to remember the lessons learned from the last one where, allowing people in, you're not going to know who these people are if you don't allow anyone in. But what a lovely, lovely life your life will be when you reach this point. And again, prosperity in many different ways with this angel or a crystal. Prosperity can be love prosperity. It can be friend prosperity. It can be so many different things. And you can, in this life, have those things. Take the lessons from this past life. Heal those carryovers. When you understand what a carryover comes from, the life that it comes from, you can set to healing that. Put your mind to healing that particular area, which can then lead to the final outcome here of what this current life can offer. So that is it for this past life reading. However, we do have one more card to pull from the fairies, and it is an extra message to be given to you for a little something more about this past life, or even about something that you are going through at this current time that may or may not reflect this past life. So we will cut the deck here, and we have this card, and you can see we have a flower that has a face. We have hair, eye, ear, mouth, nose. So this fairy, her name is Mink, and her subject matter is the wish. She says, "Consider me as your own personal wish flower. I am here for you no matter what the season. I will aid you in sending out your heartfelt wishes, helping the universe to hear you. There are just 2 requests I have for you. Do not wish just for the sake of wishing. Wish from your heart, which is the centerpiece of your soul. And once you make your wish, do not allow yourself to think it could not possibly come true, as that will erase it from the universe's to-do list. So, wow. The universe is saying all you have to do is wish for the understanding, for the wisdom to reach this point. Doesn't necessarily say it will come like right now, but it is a start. If you wish to understand what has happened here, this wish mink will be with you for as long as you need her. So for however many wishes you need to make to reach where you would like to reach this lifetime. You do have a tribe, but letting go of the struggle can be very, very hard to do. Use mink. Use your guides, your angels, past loved ones. Ask for help. Talk to people. Learn to accept others' compassion. So that is it for the reading. Take what you can from it and let go of what you can't. So until next time, take care. Hello, stone number 4, the quartz crystal. Now, the quartz crystal is a very powerful stone, and it's actually considered the master healer stone. It tends to amplify energy, and it absorbs, it stores, it releases, and regulates energy, which is very important. They say that generator quartz crystals can actually hold thousands and thousands and thousands of memories within, millions of memories within. This quartz crystal also aids in concentration and memory, and it is said to stimulate the immune system because it does all that regulating and releasing, so it balances the entire body. This quartz crystal is also used at times for the crown chakra because it helps to open up the universe, creating a doorway away from the physical into the universe and the expansion of that way of thinking, allowing us to see a much bigger picture of what is going on in our lives then and beyond. So this stone, you may have been attracted to it for a reason. It may be connected to your past life reading, and it may not. It may be just a stone that you're being called to perhaps find for some reason for yourself. So let us take a look and see what your past life has to share. Keep in mind, this is a general reading. Take what you can from it and let the rest go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, first glance here, it appears that you were a part of what would be termed nowadays as a mythical world. You were what looks like a dragon trainer. And you also, your friends and neighbors were very interesting beings of that mythical world. So we have fairies, we have pirates, we have shadow people, we have tree people, we have superheroes. This was your world at one time. However, this could have very well been a world of your mind, or you as a writer, someone who wrote about, for instance, ones like Snow White and shadow people, or good and evil in fairy tale stories, mythical dragons, and those who would train and fly on dragons, and who had adventures with all of these beings. So you were either a storyteller or a writer of these tales. You also, I believe, became almost a bit confused as to what was real and what was not real of your writing, becoming so engaged in the stories that you would share that you began to believe that these stories were actually true. Now, this took place not knowing if this is in your mind. Now, we're dealing with two totally different things here. It's either in your mind where all this took place and you were actually living in a time when there were superheroes against good and evil, when people were magical and sold potions and did readings and threw bones for information, and where you could look at things of nature and see answers in them. Or you were writing during a time when this kind of story gave relief to those people who, say, were lost in war, or those people who needed a diversion because life was so hard and they felt obsolete, basically, not complete. You faced challenges because you really did see fairies. You also communed with spirits. Problem is that was not the law of the land at the time that you would write these stories, and at the time when you believed that all of this was actually taking place, everything that you wrote about, you really felt like that was all happening. It was a safer place for you to be. You could have an adventure and come out of that adventure just by going to the fairies for help and communing with spirits, and perhaps going to indigenous people for information that you would need to survive. They were places for you to hide. These people brought you a place to hide when things would get far too dangerous. It appears that someone came and stole your work, all your stories, all your adventures. They stole them from you. Now, again, this could be someone who you would see a pirate in your mind. The pirates, you wrote about it. The pirates came and stole your stories, which made you very, very sad and not able to cope. When in fact, you were not a dragon trainer. This was all in your mind. You were mentally confused, mentally unstable, perhaps, in this particular past life. And once this happened, you were placed in a facility to look from the inside out, basically. That's where you passed, was in this facility. No longer able to write out your adventures that had kept you, for all practical purposes, probably a lot more sane than many people out there. And due to this, you may have a very creative nature that has carried over from this particular past life. You may have a major fear of psychiatrists, psychologists, maybe a major distrust of anyone with a medical degree of any kind because of where this all ended up. You may have a major desire to write. There are many areas you maybe do write or paint or something that really is a major creative outlet for you. It is necessary to have that creative outlet. Does not mean that the unstable portion of self in this life came to this life, but it is a carryover of how you're healing from this life. Sometimes it is hard to heal from lives that create a lot of trauma. So if it is a carryover, knowing the carryover from this past life, you can begin to heal that, whatever it is. Perhaps it is a lack of creativity in this life because you're afraid to be creative. Those things can begin to be healed when you know where they have come from. So in this past life, the things that you learned were, sometimes the world seems so upside down. No matter what you do, you cannot bring this world to any kind of a logical understanding for yourself. So the best thing to do is, at least what you learned in this life, was to embrace the difference, embrace yourself, and make the best of this upside down world, which is what you did. You wrote wondrous stories. Now, whether those stories were ever published, I have no way of knowing, but you wrote wondrous stories, and someone did steal those stories from you, as we saw here. They may have, as a form of healing for you, perhaps they burned those stories. Pirates would pillage and burn. Maybe they burned your stories so they would never be in anyone's hands. But you learned to adapt. You learned to be different, to pretend to be, to the best of your ability, someone who could function in society and seemed to be like everyone else. But that was not the case. You could never show your true face. And you knew this. However, at some point you obviously did show your true face, and that's where this all led. And it could have been a family member that was jealous of who you were and just kind of made it appear as though you had absolutely lost your mind. and that, this is where you thought you actually lived, or, as I said, it was a safer place for you to be, because the world can be such an unfriendly place. And from this last card here, or these last 3 cards here, it tells how this past life affects your current life. Now, I believe, even though we see a male on this card, I believe you were actually female, but it was easier for you to write yourself in as a male, because during these times, women didn't get a lot of respect, or were not able to show their creative abilities and be paid for it, so to speak, make a living from it. So you felt you were better off as going from woman to man in these stories, these adventure stories. In this current life, you have learned that it's wonderful to be joyful, and that you can be many different kinds of people. We have a tree person. We have a very well-to-do leaf person. We have a woman pirate here. These women are all doing what they feel they need to do, what they wish to do. They're living their lives the way they want to. You can be joyous. You can be wealthy. You can be daring and adventurous. You can be all those things and not worry about getting lost in your mind this time around. This is who this life has created, or who it was meant to create this time around in this current life. So you can be, and again, male or female. I'm just saying, in this particular life, I feel like you became female and that you wrote yourself in as male. However, you can be male and have written yourself in as male, because that's the way it is back in those times. So don't let this make you think you have to be female. As per the cards, this is just the same gender, okay? The gender of joy, the gender of being prosperous, the gender of daringness, adventure, and embracing all of these areas without shame. There is no more hiding who you are. So that's a very, very interesting past life reading. And we're going to add just one more card to this reading. It's an extra message that the fairies wish to share. Sometimes it has to do with the past life reading we've just had, and sometimes it has to do with maybe something you are currently going through in your life. So let us see what they have to share. We will split the deck here. And we have this little guy. You can see him here. He seems to be shouting at someone looking that direction. He's got a very pointed ear. I don't believe that this is a wing. It is part of that branch. However, it looks kind of like a wing the way that the photograph was taken. So here we have Hallow. And Hallow, his subject matter is the imp. And he says, within each one of us is an imp. Its nature is fun-loving, harmless, a jokester, and the secretive and mysterious smile. In young children, unfettered by society rules, the imp can be clearly seen. In adults, the imp is invisible in most, hazy and slightly noticeable in a few. The imp is the joy of innocence and fun, needed for the adult to see clearly as they saw as children. The imp, or inner child, is needed to keep the heart young. After all, laughter is the best medicine, yes? So what a lovely message from Hallow, because somewhere along the line here, there was a lot of childhood joy in this writing, in the stories that were shared. And maybe it was never written, but I think it was. I feel like it was, because I feel like all those stories were burned. But in that time, I feel it was necessary for that child to put forth, even as an adult, put forth these stories. And that's what Hallow is trying to share with you for your current life as well, because we can find that inner child, and that inner child, when that inner child comes forth, that's when we feel the most free, and that's when our creativity really comes to the foreground, because children are very creative. Children don't let anything deter them. Everything is acceptable when and before society says, oh, you cannot do this, and you cannot do this, and you cannot do this. This is who they become. And creativity, there is no bounds to creativity. So it looks as though the quartz crystal, with all of its ability to store memories and rejuvenate and release things that are no longer needed by you, this would be a good one for you to carry for healing anything that is residual carried over into your current life from this past life. So that is it for this past life reading. So take what you can from the reading and disregard the rest. And until next time, take care.